Hi everybody. So today we're going to start a new chapter in math. And we're going to move through it pretty quickly because we are definitely starting to get close to that big end of the year test that we've talked about. So we're going to spend a few weeks on this and then we will start moving on to reviews. So you're almost to the end of 3rd grade. Isn't that crazy? So this chapter is all about area and perimeter. Okay, now I know this word looks like perimeter, but we actually pronounce it perimeter. And then this word is area. So what is area and perimeter? Well, let's start with perimeter. So perimeter is the distance around the outside of a figure. Figure is just another word for shape, okay? So if I have this rectangle and I got my ruler out and I measured it and I said, well, these two sides are each 6 inches and these two sides are each 2 inches. To figure out the perimeter, I would add up those 4 numbers, 6 plus 6 plus 2 plus 2. And then whatever my answer is the perimeter. Okay, so 6 plus 6 is 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, so that means the distance around the outside of the shape is 16 inches. Okay, and that's all perimeter is. If you think of a real world example of perimeter, think of a fence around a yard, okay? If I said, I want to build a fence in my backyard, how much fence do I need? I would need to figure out the perimeter, okay? Only the distance around the outside. Okay, so a couple things to keep in mind about perimeter. It's like a fence. It's just the outside of a shape. This one's important. Any shape that we are figuring out the perimeter can only have straight lines, okay? So that means we could figure out the perimeter of a triangle, of a square, of a funky shape. Okay? But what we cannot figure out the perimeter of is if it has curves or rounded sides. So we can't figure out the perimeter of a circle. We're not going to figure out the perimeter of something that looks like that, okay? We're only going to find the perimeter of shapes that have all straight sides, okay? So think, perimeter is like a fence, the distance around the outside. All right, now let's talk a little bit about area. So if perimeter is the distance around the outside, what do you think area might be? Yeah, exactly. Area is the space on the inside, okay? So lots of times when we're talking about area, you will see shapes that have little squares inside, and those are called square units. To figure out the area of a shape, we just count those squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So the area is 12 square units, okay? And don't worry, this is just an introduction. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about this, but I'd just like to start out letting you know what we're going to be doing. So, a couple of things to remember about area. Perimeter is the outside of a figure. Area is the inside. Okay? Area, so if you think of my fence example, perimeter would be my fence that I put along the outside. Area would be like the grass inside of my fence. okay? Perimeter is outside, area is inside, okay? And then the only other thing, it's the same rule. We're just gonna figure out area of shapes that are all straight-sided, okay? As we get into this more, you'll figure out and see why that's so important, but I kind of just wanted to touch on it. Okay, so what I'd like for you to do now is grab your workbook and go ahead and turn to page 749 so we can go over your words really quickly. All right. Okay, so on page 749, we only have 6 vocabulary words for this chapter. Our first word is area, and area is just like we talked about. It is the space inside of a figure. Okay, so the area of this one is 12 square units. Our next word is composite figure. And a composite figure is 2 or more shapes that have been put together to create one shape. So if you look at this is 2 rectangles. Here's a rectangle and here's a rectangle. And then they've been put together to create their own shape. So that's a composite shape. Next is formula. And a formula are directions for how to plug in numbers to solve a problem, okay? So if I want to know the area of a shape, I would multiply the length times the width, okay? And I promise we're gonna get to that. But for right now, all you need to know is a formula is how you figure something out. Next is perimeter. And perimeter is the distance around the outside of a shape. So they measured each one of these sides, 6, 6, 6, and 10 millimeters. And to figure out the perimeter, you add up each of those numbers. So 6 times 3 is 18, plus 10 would be 28. All right, next is a unit square. And unit squares are the little squares that you'll see whenever we start counting area. And then last but not least is square unit. And square unit is how we measure area, okay? So instead of saying inches or centimeters, I might say it's 6 square units. All right, so next you're gonna move on and try the Am I Ready page. The directions are down below, and hopefully you rock it.